Hello and welcome to the Lewis Nichols Show, and I'm really excited to bring on probably Britain's most patient and polite neighbour in Two Doors Down. It's the brilliant Arabella Weir. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I only hesitated because, it's another day in lockdown and, one is pretty much like the other and it's a little bit tedious, but I'm pretty good. Yes, I am so unlike my real self in that show. Everybody goes, why have they got you to do that? I mean, I am not a patient person. I am a very good neighbour where I live, but I wouldn't be a good neighbour to those insufferable, I can't, the bisms. I'll just be polite. But yes, I have no idea why I got cast to play something so unlike myself. I'm having to draw on all my resources to find the patience that Beth displays.
You play it so well, and what I love about Beth is when you have people like Kathy and Christine putting you down. They're mocking your house. The little things, your hair and stuff, and you just have
they're usually
this...
mocking my house, my look, they usually mock my house, my looks, my food, my tea, my hair, my clothes, my son's sexuality, my son's choice of boyfriend. Yes, I don't think there's much they don't mock about me.
And the brilliant thing,
such is the way.
What we all love is the smile that Beth just keeps on her face when she's receiving these insults. She's just kind of smiling, and you know that she's thinking she's really hurt by the insults from Kathy, but she just smiles it out and gracefully is polite about it.
Well, the thing the writers always say to me, do that smile. So the smile is kind of one of those stuck grins where really what you're thinking is, I want to kill you. And you're just going, no, that's fine. Don't bother. No, just leave it there. And yes, I have known, well, one of my grannies was certainly very like that in Scotland, because my parent, I am Scottish despite my accent. You meet those people. I mean, some of them do more kind of, as they get older, they tend to do a bit more of the kind of, well, don't mind about me. They're not always Scottish, but, that kind of, that way of dealing with those insults. But yes, I mean, Beth would be in a bad place if she tried to come back with stuff, wouldn't she? Because it wouldn't get her anywhere. Because I think it would probably just make it worse. Yes, and of course that's probably very true to life, isn't it? The more you fight back, the worse it gets. So yes, Beth doesn't bother with that. But as I say, that is not what I'd be like in real life for a minute.
I mean, what I love about Beth is, and I was mentioning it to Elaine, is when Beth swears, and it's a very odd occasion that she swears, it shocks you, because it reminds me of my mum. She's very patient like Beth, but when you push and she swears, you're like, okay, I need to leave because this is unlike my mum. And that's what Beth reminds me of. I think it's incredible.
Well, I think she is meant to be, and that's certainly how she's written. I mean, both the writers are men, and she is written as a kind of universal archetypal mum, isn't she? Which is slightly put upon, very long-suffering, quite sort of wise and level-headed, but not likely to say, why don't you just F off? Or, I mean, so when she does, she means it. So yes, that's definitely true of her. And yes, but of course, again, so unlike me, because right from, I suppose, can't remember, but when I remember thinking when my children got old enough, I could start swearing, and I did. And then they'd go, Mum, you said that. And I'd go, yes, but I'm, whatever it was, annoyed. So yes, again, so unlike me. It takes all the constraint I have all the power I have to be that reserved and that kind of button-lipped, I would say. Is it gonna matter if I walk through to another room?
No, not at all.
It'll be interesting. They can see my pink wall, and you can quick tour around the house. Well, not quite around the house, but here we go. Oh, look, it is a bit of a tour.
It's like through the keyhole.
Modern technology, I really love it. Oh, it is a bit, isn't it? Not that I've obviously, they used to ask me to do those kind of shows, and you just go, why would anybody do that? Oh no, then that's no good because the back. There we go. There we go. That's nice light, and then you can see now my pink living room.
You've got your pink living room.
It does look very pink, doesn't it?
Do you know, I've got to say, one thing I love as a fan of the show is you and Elaine C. Smith. You've just got this incredible chemistry together. And there's a scene where Christine's in the hospital and she calls Beth into the toilet in the hospital. And there's a moment where Beth finally feels that she's getting the gratitude for everything that she's always done for Christine. And Christine's making out that she's going to leave Beth in her will. And it turns out that actually Heather, the nurse, is going to get the inheritance, and you just play it so well. You've got this chemistry.
House in Latimer Crescent. Yes, well, Elaine and I, we're the sort of, yes, Elaine, and of course, Beth would never presume or assume that she was going to get anything. So when Elaine's character, and Christine is going to come here, I just want the person who's cared for me most, blah blah blah, and then she goes, that wee Heather. I think. Yes, they play on that very well. As that was a good scene to shoot. Well, Elaine and I get on very well, which makes it easier to do the sort of what's the word I'm looking for? It makes it easier to do the stuff where the antagonism that makes it easier to do because we get on very well, and and of course we both enjoy the fact that Christine is never-endingly, unsurprisingly, incredibly surprisingly, she never fails to surprise with her outrageousness. Just at the moment you think she might do right by Beth, she goes, I want that wee nurse to have all my money. There won't be much money, but I suppose it'd be the house in Latimer Crescent. Yes, it is, and Elaine's very funny as well, so we have a real laugh doing it. But it can get quite wearing being Beth because you're just put upon and put upon and put upon, but that's the way it goes, eh?
Another scene I think is brilliant is when Michelle and Alan move into the neighborhood. Christine knocks on Beth's door and said, look, I didn't want to disturb them and push on them, so I've told them to come here at 2 o'clock for sandwiches. And it's just, again, where Beth's put out. She doesn't have a say in who comes into her house. It's just brilliant to watch. And Doon mentioned to us filming the Christmas special, you actually all had a drink, listened to some music, and got to actually get together socially when you were filming the recent Christmas special.
Well, we did, because of course we were, naturally and medically, we had to form our own bubble in order to be able to film together. So it meant that we were finally, we do that in Glasgow, but not that often because Elaine doesn't stay close to town, and and I stay in the centre, and so it's not usually that. And also we're always being picked up at 6 in the morning for filming. So what was lovely about the Christmas special is we were all in a hotel, being ferried out to where we were filming, but it meant that we could all be together in the evening in the hotel. So that was really, really nice. Yeah, it was lovely. And it was a very nice hotel. And of course, in Scotland at the time, and I think it's probably true now, you were only allowed to drink in your room. Right. So the 6 of us would pile into somebody's rooms. Luckily, we had rooms that, they weren't huge, but they were big enough for that. But, we'd all been tested, so we'd all formed our own bubble. But yeah, it was very nice. It was very nice being with everyone for the week. Everyone was so glad to be out of the house again. Cabin fevery, what it's like.
I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but with Doon, Jonathan, and Elaine, we quiz them on Two Doors Down. They have 10 questions, and we see how many they get right. Did you know about this?
I did know, because Doon said he does a really fun, hilarious quiz at the end of the interview. So fire away. I'm prepped. I'm just hoping that I'll remember stuff.
So the first question for you is, what was Beth trying to get into her freezer? There was an episode where she was frustratingly trying to get...
A huge fish.
Correct. There we go. What was Beth's hidden talent?
She could meow like a cat.
That's one
I'm
of the
obviously going to know the
funniest.
stuff about me.
That's what it's about.
I
It's
know,
about the
everyone loves
character.
it. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to know my own things, aren't I? I bet I get all these right. I thought they were going to be someone did this for the fast show, but we had to answer we had to do quizzes. You know, we had to answer questions on other people's things, which I also got right. But anyway, here we go. So I'm not going to get I bet I don't get one of these wrong. Fighting talk.
Dune got 10. Jonathan only got 5. So what did Beth order for her birthday meal?
Fish and chips.
Correct.
No?
Yeah, correct.
Oh, good. Because that's why she has to halve her fish. There's a whole thing about she has to halve the fish, bring us 2 plates, and I'll have it. No, you can't do that. Right. Well, yeah, I remember all that. Yeah.
In a Mr. and Mrs. quiz, Beth was asked if she wasn't married to Eric, who would she have liked to have married?
Oh. It wasn't George Clooney, was it?
Correct. Yes.
Oh, okay. That's probably been my answer. I think Beth, I mean, that's more realistic for me, let's face it, than it is for Beth. It's not very realistic for me.
What did Beth make and bring to Willie's birthday?
To Willie's birthday or Willie's funeral?
Birthday.
Oh no, wait, Willie's birthday. Oh. You sure we're talking about Willie, Johnny's dad, Colin's dad?
Yeah, Beth made something and she brought it in.
It wasn't meringue.
And he was actually annoyed about it because she suggested you have it with tea. And he kept reiterating, this with tea?
Willie. This with tea. No, this is all right. This was, it wouldn't have been shortbread.
No. Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, you'll have to tell me.
It was fudge.
He's right.
Fudge.
We wouldn't have that with tea. Fudge. I'll keep him fudge.
Do you want to know something shocking?
She wouldn't have made it for tea. Say that again?
Do you want to know something a little bit shocking? Jonathan didn't know the name of his dad in his quiz.
That doesn't surprise me about Johnny. Yeah, I don't that much. Yes, he wouldn't have been. Yes, what was the actor called? Morris. Can't remember.
Is it Reeves?
Yeah, go on.
Reeves, Morris.
Well done. Yes, very well done. That is his name.
What biscuits?
He's died recently.
What biscuits did Christine ask for? What biscuits? Sorry, did Christine ask Beth for?
Digestives.
So the scene we're referring to, she calls her over. Beth thinks that Christine's about to say something nice, and she says, "Beth, what's the chance of another one of those wee something biscuits?"
What's the chance one of those wee? Is it not digestives? No. It's not ginger nuts. It might be something like a Viennese whirl. Can't remember.
Pink wafers.
Of course it is. Of course it's a pink wafer.
What was the name of Gordon's parents that came to visit Beth and Eric?
Oh, God. Was the mum called Liz?
No.
No? Oh, God. No, not a clue.
Graham and Sandra.
Now that you say that, of course, that's exactly right. But no.
It brings it back.
Yeah.
What did Beth and Eric buy for Michelle and Alan's housewarming party?
A scented candle, because he says, "Oh, it's going to smell like a fucking chapel." He goes, "I hope it's not a scented candle because it's going to smell like a fucking chapel." Yeah, I remember that very well because I said, "Oh, it's just a scented candle." He goes, "Oh, it's not a scented candle." Yeah, that's right.
That for me is my favorite episode of the entire series. It just everything about it. Christine shouting bargain hunt into the remote, Kathy getting drunk
Oh,
and
that
being
is funny.
offensive. It's brilliant.
That is very, very funny. And them being offensive to the girl who's deaf. And you know, that is very funny. Yeah, it's a very, very good episode. She was great, that girl. She was really brilliant.
Then the next question for you. What did Kathy and Colin bring back from holiday for Beth and Eric?
Oh, something really crap.
And she kept wanting everyone to eat it. And you know, it was at the scene where Christine wins a PPR.
Ham on.
Ham on, that's it.
Come on.
Correct.
Because then there's that episode because Dune does all the kind of clap me, and she's in the garden trying to do sort of Spanish clapping. She's trying to do, you know, Spanish dancing. It's very funny.
The last question for you. What did Christine try to buy and eventually used Beth's credit card to buy? There's a big disaster about it.
A pram.
Yeah, can you remember the name?
Was it a bugaboo?
But do you know that's what Elaine said? It was a Barney boo, but Elaine said bugaboo as well.
Well, you know why? Because bugaboo is a real pram that costs some crazy amount of money, but a Barney boo isn't real.
Cheap.
And they obviously said Barney boo to cover themselves with bugaboo in case bugaboo went, oh, you can't use our brand name when you're taking the mic.
Yeah.
So that is why. But yes.
You done very well.
What's my score?
7.
That's not too bad. But my God, I can't believe Elaine Doone got 10. Yeah, that's very impressive.
How did you prep the Scottish accent that you portray with Beth? Because you do it so well. Because most of the cast I've spoke to sound like their characters, but you're completely different.
Because my parents are Scottish and my whole family is Scottish, and we're the first. My parents' kids are the first Scots to not live in Scotland, and so everybody in our family is Scottish. And I mean, I don't suppose that would mean we could always do the accent, but that is the sort of natural thing we've listened to. But and I'm an actor, but also just because, yeah, I mean, it just comes completely naturally because of our parents and our grandparents and everybody. And my parents were the first on both their sides of families to leave Scotland, and they only did that because of the Second World War. So yeah, everybody in my heritage is Scottish. So when, as somebody did recently, Scottish actresses or a Scottish actor complained about English people having the part, the BBC were able to say in all good conscience, no, she is Scottish. So if Scottish were a skin colour, I'd be Scottish.
Well, one thing I wanted to talk about, obviously we're in lockdown at the moment, and I know that your shows are being postponed, but your one-woman show, Does My Mum Loom Big in
I mean,
This?
my solo show.
Your solo show.
Yes, my solo show. Yeah, that was.
It's hilarious. It's a funny show, and the reviews are incredible. But actually, there's a much deeper story behind it, because although it's fun and it's hilarious to watch, actually you suffered a lot of not very nice things from your parents in regards to your weight and appearance. So although it's a funny show, it's also got a deeper meaning for you.
I suppose I've always dealt with any serious issues in my life through humor or using humor, and I think I, to be perfectly blunt, survived my mum because my mum, more than my dad, although my dad was quite bad, they were very critical about everything, but in my case, particularly weight. And my mother was not a happy person, and I think she just took everything out on me. She was frustrated and unfulfilled in life, and I think I annoyed her, and she didn't see anything wrong with sort of taking everything out on me. And I think probably my kind of survival, my one survival tool is humor, and always has been. So the show, in the show, I attempt to, and I think I do this successfully, lay out what Mum was like, explain what her background was like and why she was like that. And then, you know, I tell these stories in which I then go, she does this and I say that. So it's more of it's an explanation of women, which was not unusual for her generation, who had no choices about becoming, well, I mean, you know, you got married and you had kids, that was it. There was no, oh, I don't think I'll get married, or I think I'll have a child without a man, or I'll have a career and then I'll have a child. Not the choices we all have. And she was incredibly frustrated and unhappy, and I was the kid she took it out on. And it makes for a funny, but I mean, as I say at the beginning of the show, you know, thank you very much for coming. You better prepare yourselves, because you'll be in for some laughs, but you'll definitely be in for some shocks. And there is quite a lot of, there's one moment everyone always gasps at. And yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's a 90-minute trawl, slightly longer, 100-minute trawl through my life and how I got to sort of, I suppose, how I got to use comedy, because I dare say I wouldn't have ever thought of humor as being something I needed to have available all the time, unless my mother had been like she was, and she was very cruel and very aggressive. And there was a big piece when I was about to do the show in Edinburgh. There was, I was very grateful. There was a big piece in The Guardian about it and about the premise of the show. And a person from The Guardian said, my favorite, you know, you can put comments underneath a piece.
Yeah.
And somebody had put, God, it's amazing to know that posh people can be abused too.
Wow.
Well, I think there's, you know, I think with a name like mine, people just think I come from a sort of palace full of butlers, and that there's no hard times. And of course, my mother was a single parent. I mean, she didn't live in a council block, but she was a single parent who was struggling, and she wasn't making a very good job of it. And it all came out on me, and, you know, hence all the stories. But yes, it's just funny to think that people think if you're called Arabella, your life must just be a dream from the moment it starts. But yeah, very much not the case. But my mother was just not cut out to be a mother, just not cut out, didn't want to be, and had no, one of the funny things about my mother, who was incredibly intelligent, was that she had no idea, I don't think any of us do actually, but she had no idea that it would be the kind of relentless work that it is.
Yeah.
And when it was clear to her that it was that level of relentless work, she said, well, I'm not going to do it. And as if I think she thought maybe, you know, a magic butler would appear from somewhere and do it for her, but she didn't want to do it. She didn't think it was anything to do with her. She didn't I don't think she could identify or cater for need of any description, not her own and not anyone else's. So she was pretty neglectful.
I mean, for me, trying to understand, because I never went through that. And as a child, you know, they're the years you should be happy, and you're very impressionable as a child. You know, when someone says something, you tend to believe
all
it.
The damage is done in the first 5 years.
What was
apparently.
That? Wow.
All the damage is done in the first 5 years. If a child doesn't have a good first 5 years, they're in a lot of trouble.
So obviously with going through that, how have you come out of the other side? Because I know you said comedy has helped you, but you've really done incredible things and projects, and you seem to, well, later on, not to have let it affect you. Well, you know, that's the perception I get and we get, because from what we see on TV.
Definitely affected me, but I think it probably, well, everything makes you who you are, but it probably made me tougher than you know, obviously you wouldn't wish that on a child, but I'm saying it was sink or swim with my mum. And I think one of the things that kind of saved me was I went to, because of my dad's job, before my parents split up, I went to a different school every 2 years around the world. That was the other reason we didn't live in Scotland. But when they split up, it meant that I went to secondary school in London, because my mother had come back to live in London. And I started secondary school, like all of us do, at 11. And I met 2 people who've stayed my friends for life. And I remember thinking, I can now make friends who I will know forever, because, you know, other places I'd be moving the school every 2 years. And they're still my closest, well, two of my closest friends. And I was able to form, they always say that you can choose your friends, can't choose your family. And I think I was able to form proper supportive relationships with people who loved me. And through one of those girls, I met a family who sort of became my kind of surrogate parents. And they would feed me, and I'd go to their house, and they were loving and supportive. So that was a big difference. But I mean, I sought them out like a sort of Victorian beggar. And I think they could see that there was, as I was at that stage, a 12-year-old who needed care. And so I'd be at their house all the time. And then when I was older, I started having therapy. And that's probably my saving grace, therapy. Everybody should have therapy. And I worked it all through. And I suppose that's also why I was able to write the show about my mum, because I came to understand that my mother didn't have the choices I've had, and she was angry and frustrated and never really had a career she loved, and just was an unhappy woman, and stuck being a mother of 4, which she hadn't known was going to be the work that it is. So yeah, I would say therapy was my saving grace, and my friends. And I have made very, very close friendships with people who have mainly proven to be very, very good friends, supportive and kind and ever present, like a family should be. But yeah, I wouldn't wish my childhood on anybody.
And I mean, later on, in later years, did you ever speak to your mum and say, do you know how you made me feel? Did actually made her aware of what it did to you? Was there a conversation?
There's quite a lot of that in the show. Oh, I don't want to listen to your fucking bourgeois nonsense complaining all the time. She never, ever held her hands up. I think once I said to her, what were you doing? And, what were you thinking? And she said, I hadn't got a clue what I was doing from one day to the next. I think she was profoundly depressed, and she just didn't know what she was doing. Everything was knee-jerk. So, yeah, I mean, I never lost contact with my mother. I always stayed, but right to her dying day, actually, this is in the show, she never, ever, ever lost the opportunity to criticize me. So she's been diagnosed. They said it's terminal. She's in hospital. They've told us she's very courageous. They've said, look, you've probably got about 10 days left. Fine. So I go to see her every day. And one day, and I go and spend my lunch times with her every day because I was working at the road. And I took a sandwich in, and I'm literally sitting there. She's quite literally on her deathbed. And she still finds the energy to say, oh, for the love of God, mayonnaise? Have you any idea how fattening mayonnaise is? And I went, what? She goes, look at you, mayonnaise oozing out of that sandwich. And I went, Mum, you're dying and I'm eating mayonnaise. Are we really going to do this? She said, oh, but it's so fattening, darling, and I can't bear to watch you eat it. And I just said, yeah, well, we're not going to be doing this. I'm just going to eat the sandwich. You'll have to get over yourself. She could not let it go. Could not let it. That's who she was. And I dare say maybe she would have, she had plenty of opportunity in every sense to change, but she never did. And that's who she was. So I wouldn't wish her on anybody as a mother, but she was all my friends loved her. She was incredibly funny and incredibly good fun and very witty and incredibly well read. She just was not cut out to be a mother. She should have been everybody's eccentric auntie, but with no. I
was going to say, I think you're so brave to have used your hurt in your life and put it into a comedy show, because a lot of people, whether you're a singer, an actor, you use your art and your passion to sometimes deal and cope with things that you're going through. And I think for you to have done that and put it into a show is incredible. And I'm hopeful when this is lifted up, we can see it in Cheltenham, hopefully.
I think I am coming to Cheltenham. I think in the autumn. Pretty sure I am. Yes.
I'd love that. I'd definitely come and see. Bring my husband. We'd love to watch you. Yeah, honestly, I thank you so much for sharing that as well.
My pleasure.
Another thing I want to ask you, we asked Jonathan and Elaine, when you were growing up, did you always know you wanted to be an actress or a comedian? Was that always kind of the ambition, or was there something else that you were looking at?
As I say, not a very happy childhood. And what I did learn early on, and I remember it like really early on, like 3.5. So I was being told that I wasn't pretty enough and I wasn't, and stop talking. Nobody wants to hear what you've got to say, from right early on. But obviously I didn't think it intellectually at the time, but I remember larking about. I was probably 3.5, 4, and it being, making everyone laugh, adults like me being in the room because I don't know, did some silly dance or whatever I did. And I remember thinking, oh, I like the way people respond to this. So I think I was always destined to be a performer because of that kind of appeal, because of what it did to people, of how it made people respond to me. So I think, yes, I can't imagine ever having done anything else. I've just no idea what I would have done. In my fantasy, I'd have been one of those inspirational teachers teaching in an inner city school where no one ever got any results and stuff. So yeah, I'm Michelle Pfeiffer from one of those films where she teaches in the Bronx. Not so much Michelle Pfeiffer, but because I like being around young people and sort of inspiring them and stuff. But I'm watching The Comeback at the moment, the Lisa Kudrow show where she's a sitcom star that tries to do a comeback in a young person show, and I can identify with quite a lot of that. Not that that's at two doors down, but yeah, I'm not sure I could have been anything else. But
and many of us will know you, of course, from the Fast Show. A big break for you, and it's one of those comedies that has just become legendary. It's lived on. People love it of all ages. How did you get the part in that? Did you have to audition? How was there a story?
No, I was very much, as it used to say. It may still say in scripts now. I'd like to think it wouldn't, not least of all because of the Me Too movement. But it used to say "mum in sketch" or "woman in sketch" on the script, or "woman in shop," or it literally used to say that. And so I was woman in sketch, girl in shop, whatever, for a kind of host of different comedians that I'd met, like Alexi Sale and Lenny Henry, and then Harry Enfield. And then I was working with Harry Enfield, literally being mum in sketch. And Paul Whitehouse and Charlie Hickson were by that time writing for him, and Paul was in some of the stuff on screen. And then they said, we're going to do our own show on BBC Two. And they just said, literally, we were standing in a pub. I'll never forget it, because they went, "Oh, you're quite funny. Why don't you come and do bits?" And I went, "Yeah, all right." But I literally thought it was going to be, I'll be woman in sketch again.
Yeah.
And then it seemed to be, as we all got together, a bit different, although there wasn't really a sort of game plan on the first day. But then Paul and Charlie went, "Oh, why don't you do a character who's like you?" And I went, "What do you mean, like me?" And they went, "Oh, what's going about, is she fat? Are the earrings wrong? Should she have cut her hair differently?" Blah. And the rest is history, because that's how I came up with "Does my bum look big in this?" But yeah, it was more, as people say, it was more organic than sort of auditioning, because I don't think they had a clear idea of, as it was then, we'll have two girls. One was Carolina Home, one was me. It was more like, we'll have two girls and 5 guys, and we'll do some sketches. And they had a very clear idea about what they were going to do, but I don't think it wasn't until the second series when we all kind of found our feet and went, right, do characters, motor your way towards a catchphrase and all that. So yeah. And then, yes, that really did change my life. That completely changed my life, because I went from being woman in sketch to being girl off the Fast Show. And also people knew my name. And then, of course, I seized the opportunity with my book, Does My Bum Look Big? Can't even say it anymore. Does my bum look big in this? So yeah, everything sort of changed with that. I'm delighted to say, which is why I've got a living room that looks like this. I wouldn't have this otherwise.
I feel like we're getting to see an exclusive.
Yeah. Although people are going to go, why is there Yeah. Why is there an armchair facing the wrong direction? That's a whole other story.
Actually, what is
not
this?
even an interesting one.
Why is it facing the other way though?
Because I was doing exercises this morning, and I rather than drag it across the nice wood floor, I pivoted it on its legs. And and as I was on my own and didn't want to put my back out, that seemed the easiest way to do. And of course, now it's like that, looking like I've got, actually, there's a dead old person in it. And I'm going to get rid of the body later.
I would love to see you on Celebrity Gogglebox. I just think you would be fantastic on that.
I hate all those reality shows. I'm never, ever going to do them, I don't think. I mean, maybe it was something great, but you know what I mean? Is it my internet connection that's unstable or yours? No, I'm fine. It must be yours. Yes, I don't. No, I'm probably too judgmental to do that. Anyway, we'll see. They get proper sort of A-listers now, don't they?
Well, do you know, it's been fantastic speaking to you. It's been incredible and inspirational just for you to be so open and honest, because we see you in Two Doors Down as the patient Beth, but to actually hear a little bit more about kind of what you went through and the reason behind your solo show, you know, which I cannot wait to see when it comes to Cheltenham. I really can.
I think the tickets and dates are on arabellaweir.co.uk. So go to that and then you will see. And then we're doing, as you probably know, we're doing a series 5 of Two Doors Down in May. In May, COVID allowing, but I think by May, June, we'll be all right, won't we?
I mean, I said to all the other cast, the Christmas special was fantastic, and it was a shame it wasn't on BBC One.
I thought it was really good.
You know, and 3 days later, it was on the 28th. It was what?
Yeah, but we have too many F words. That's why we're not on BBC One. We have too many F words.
I didn't know that. Wow.
That's the only reason. Because we absolutely, I think the show would be perfect for BBC One, but it is literally a case of we can't be on BBC One because there's too many Fs.
And they make it as well.
Occasionally the odd scene. And you try imagine Elaine without the Fs. I mean, you know, she'll have no dialogue. So yeah.
You know, I was going to say, what I love about the show is, and I think it was Jonathan told us how it's filmed, is it doesn't matter what scene's going on. So it could be something to do with Kathy and Colin, but everybody else is doing something, whether it's a little facial expression or a reaction to something. And I've never seen that on TV before. And I think that's why it's so gripping.
Well, I suppose the other one that was like that is the royal family, isn't it? Everyone's in the same room doing something, whether it's tiny or big, but we're all in the same room, doing something. So I think that's one of the reasons it works as well, because that's much more like life, isn't it? You know, you're all in the room and someone's going, fucking kettle won't boil or whatever, and everyone else is going, just put it, don't slam it, put it on the, and everyone else in the room is going, yes, certainly what my family, yes, because I suppose it's a sort of version of family life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is, you know, what it's supposed to be, which is what all good sitcoms are, isn't it? A version of family life. Yes, that's the idea.
I think a great episode's when Christine's ceiling collapses and everyone spends the night at Beth and Eric's. You've got Kathy there because she's had a row with Colin because he was watching some pornography on the laptop. It was fantastic episode.
No, that is a very, very good episode. You're right. I love that episode. Yeah, there's lots of good episodes. But yeah, her on my blow up bed, and then she goes, Beth. And you think she's going to say thanks for everything. She says, "Can you just get me a hot drink?" Because yes, it's got better and better. I think the show. I hope.
Well, I think Series 5 is going to be hugely popular. It's growing and growing on the iPlayer at the moment with lockdown. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. No,
it's really very nice to talk to you, Lewis. Really, really nice.
And well done on the quiz. You didn't come last, you came second. So we'll let everybody else know.
Thank goodness for that. I want to be last. Brilliant. Thanks very much, my love. Nice to see you.
You too.
Come in.